Future Kids February Challenge. I am Alina. I am the coordinator for Fridays for Future Las Vegas and Fridays for Future Kids. And with us is Dreama. Thank you so much for being here and for showing us how to make compost too. So how do we get started?
Okay, well let's start with maybe a little bit of background about what compost is. So, compost is made up of basically 3 ingredients. You have your browns, which are things like dried leaves, straw, and paper. Can you show them the leaves that we've collected there? Right? Another layer that you would have is your food scraps. And we have taken and blended some food scraps and put them in a jar. So those are in this jar right here. They look kind of mucky. And then your final or next ingredient would be soil. You can show them the collection of soil, that'll work. And so we will put and blend all of those together. We'll put them in layers. And then over time you will mix them up to be able to have them work better together. Okay, do you know why we're adding the soil?
To make sure to help it break down or to moisturize it.
That's correct, and to introduce microbes, which are a product that, or a component that will help eat the soil and turn it into, or eat the food and turn it into soil. So what are we going to start with? We're going to start with something like a jar like this. And the reason we're using a plastic jar is because we're going to have to put some holes in it for air, because compost needs air in order for it to properly work. It'll need water and it'll need air along with those other ingredients. So normally we would use a drill and we would put holes throughout this jar, very small holes, so that it will breathe. This jar has some holes in it. I don't know if you can see them, but there's a hole here and here, another one here and here, and we've done that on these sides as well. And I've also put 2 holes in the top, so that if this was filled with compost, it would have some ability to get some air. Okay?
Okay.
All right. What are we going to start with? We're going to start with a layer of leaves and or soil. So can you put some of those in here?
Like a handful?
Yes. And I know it's going to be a little hard to get those in there because they're kind of big, but that's all right. Maybe a few more. You have to clean up that after this. Okay. All right, the next we're going to add are some food products. So we want to take and add those. And what we're going to do is, because we're doing this in a jar, we're going to cut these up small, because the smaller the pieces are,
the faster it will compost.
That's correct. Yeah, it'll be much faster because the bigger they are, the longer they take, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So can you cut some of these up and put them in this jar?
Okay. Like, is this good?
That's fine. Okay, put some lettuce in, or putting in some leftover lettuce and some carrots, and you can also put in other food ingredients, orange peels, oranges, basically anything but meat or dairy products. The meat is not good because it does draw flies that will produce maggots, and you really don't want those around your house, or it'll draw animals if this happen to be outdoors, or even indoor animals, I guess. And the dairy products do tend to smell or creating a sour smell, so we tend to avoid those. You can put in eggshells, and how about some, that's good, okay. How about some soil now at this point? Because we would put a layer of soil in. So I've got some soil in that red container right there. And if you want to bring it over, it'd probably be easier.
Like so, keep it up.
Okay. Okay, and then we could put some more leaves. So we're doing layers. We're doing leaves, and then about the equivalent amount of vegetables, and then about an equivalent amount of soil. And then we'll layer it again and do some more, and do another layer. Okay. Yeah, those big ones are a little hard. Something you could do, and this might work, we'll see. Sometimes it just helps to cut those up.
Oh, there's some feathers in this.
There's what?
There's some feathers.
Feathers? Yeah, there could be feathers in there. They came from the yard. Feathers are okay though. They're actually a very good source of minerals. All right, so now we'll put some more vegetables in.
I'm going to put a feather.
Okay, you're gonna put a feather in? It sounds like a great idea.
But I don't want to grab it because it might be nah,
Okay. This is a bucket of vegetables that have been put in a blender to make them really small. So they're kind of mucky, but if you want to put some of that in there, see how it's, yeah, several. I can go over, aren't you? Okay, good.
That's good enough.
All right, what's next?
We could use some, like more leaves. Right now, we already did leaves.
Well, we did the leaves, we did the vegetables. Dirt.
Oh, dirt. That's some vegetables.
Mm-hmm. That's plenty, okay. And I'm just kind of compacting this so we'll be able to fit a little more in. Maybe one more layer.
We could.
I would do maybe browns. Browns next, since we did the soil. We'll do some more brown. Yeah, you can do a little of that soil. These are two different types of soil. So one of them was a cleaner soil. This one was like fresh from my garden, so it's liable to have fresher microbes than the other one. Okay, so now some browns. Yep, more of those.
Yeah, some more of these.
Mhm. I think if you can pick the leaves, that might help. Pick some leaves. Some smaller leaves, that's good. And the great thing about all of this is, so what, you get your hands dirty. It's just food stuff. Okay, and so part of the reason for part of the reason we also use like dry leaves like this is it creates airspace so that you have air in there to work with. Right, some more vegetables.
Basic, very last vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
Should we have more?
Might as well put them all in there, right? Yeah, you can put more banana in there. You have it there, you might as well use it, right? All right, I'll talk a little bit while she's doing that about the fact that your browns are basically introducing carbon, and your greens nitrogen, and your water that is inherently in these vegetables will produce, will have hydrogen in it as well. So your air and water will be there. And so basically you can see, I don't know if you can zero in on that, but sticks or leaves, then brown, and browns, they're the same. Green is your vegetables and your raw products. And then again, another layer of brown, which is your soil and your leaves again. Some more greens, some more browns, and top it off with soil finally.
Which soil should we do?
That's good. So our final, we're going to top it off with soil at the end,
Here.
just to make sure we have lots of good microbes in there. Okay, in this case we'll leave some airspace, and then basically we would cap it and set it aside in a warm, preferably dark place, and it doesn't have to be too dark, but just out of the way. And you check it every couple of weeks just to make sure that it's dry enough, but that it's not real, you don't want it real dry. You want it to be like, if you were to take a sponge and wet it, and if you wring out the sponge and you can wring out water, that's too wet. So if you were to pick this up and wring it out and it got, water dripping out of it, it's too wet. I would open the top, set it out in the sun, let it evaporate a little bit. And add some more browns, because you have space to do that. If it's not wet enough, like it doesn't feel like a damp sponge, and it maybe doesn't hold together, it just wants to fall apart because it's too dry, then you add a little bit of water or some more vegetables, which would add some water to it. And you're going to let that sit, and I don't know, about 6 weeks, 8 weeks, you will have a product that, I don't know if you'll be able to tell, that'll look something like this, and we can take the top off of this. And take a little bit of it out. So this is still kind of in the process. It's not quite done, but you can see the soil starting to,
Like soak up the water.
there's water in there, but it's starting to turn into a soil type of, see here? See how it looks more like soil? Can you see that?
So it's
Doesn't it look more like
down
this?
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this soil, there's a little bit of a difference. This is a little finer. See how this is still a little chunky? Because it's still got chunky pieces of vegetables in it. So when this is done, it'll look more like that soil there that's more fine. And if there's still some pieces of chunk in it, you can screen it. So some people will do that. They'll take this and they'll just remove some of the bigger pieces. Put the bigger pieces back in with your next group of compost and let it make your next batch. And so I do take and mix this up every now and then just to give it, like I would mix after a few weeks, and maybe take a spoon and try to mix this up a little bit. That just helps it makes it go faster. And that is the end of it. Now, you'll see on this one, just as an aside, this one has the holes in it. but I felt like it wasn't getting quite enough oxygen. So I took an old coffee filter and just wrapped it around it, secured it because I fed it outside in my yard, and I didn't want insects or even birds getting in it, or getting to it. I don't want flies getting in there. And so this does that, but it also allowed it to breathe because the coffee filter is more like a paper, and it has air space in it, so that the compost can breathe and get some oxygen in there to help it along.
Cool.
Do you have any questions about that?
No.
Okay. Do you remember when we talked about this? What happens what if your compost starts to smell like, what rotten eggs smell like?
And that means it's not enough oxygen.
That's right. And if it starts to smell like ammonia?
It means too much
Nitrogen.
Nitrogen.
Okay? And nitrogen is your greens. That's your vegetables. So basically, to counteract that, if it's too much nitrogen, what would you add?
If it's too much,
Mm-hmm.
you could add some more browns.
Yes, we would add more browns. So we were talking about the fact that if it smells like ammonia, it has too much nitrogen, we're going to add some browns, right? And if it smells like soil, what does that mean?
It's perfect.
That's right, it's doing well. That's exactly what we want it to smell like. So to recap, we're going to build our compost, and then what are we going to do?
We could moisten it. We could top slightly, and we could cover it and let it drip.
Right. So toss it lightly. We're just going to mix this one around like that. Okay, and then we're going to let it sit and brew. And it's going to cook until it is complete. And it will be dark, crumbly, rich, and sweet smelling. Or it'll smell like soil. And there we have a compost stew. That's an interesting book that you read.
Thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you, Dreama, for showing us how to make a compost in a jar. I can't wait to see your compost in a jar. See you next time. Like, share, and stay tuned for next month. Bye!